He seems strange to you.
Not strange. When he came in, he spoke what's happening and everything, but
He was friendly then?
yeah, he didn't seem strange. I never suspect him in this build. Out of every building in Yonkers, he's in 35 Pine Street. That shocks me.
David Richard Berkowitz, who the media coined the .44 caliber killer, but who was also known as the Son of Sam, pleads guilty to at least 8 shootings. With a .44 caliber revolver, this unassuming man ultimately kills 6 people, and wounds many more during the mid-70s, terrorizing the citizens of New York. He was eventually stopped on the 10th of August 1977, after his arrest. He confesses, stating his reason for the shootings was due to him simply following orders he received, from a demonic dog, belonging to Sam, who was his neighbor. Join me, as we explore the life and crimes of David Richard Berkowitz. Welcome to Simply Told. David Berkowitz was born Richard David Falco on the 1st of June 1953, in Brooklyn, to parents, Elizabeth Betty Broder, and Joseph Kleinman, who was a married man at the time. But shortly after he was born, Betty gives David away. The reasons behind her actions are still unclear, but it's believed that Joseph Kleinman threatened to leave Betty if she chose to keep David, or to use his name. Now Betty was married herself before, to a gentleman by the name of Tony Falco. But he later leaves poor Betty for another woman. David was eventually adopted by a childless couple, named Pearl and Nathan Berkowitz, who ran a hardware store at the time, where he was finally given the name of David Richard Berkowitz. So David attended public school, but his school days was troubling at times. Even though he was considered an above-average student, he never showed much interest in school. But he did show a lot of interest in petty larceny and arson. The community viewed David as a spoiled child, known for bullying, and being difficult at times. But then, when David was only 14 years old, his adoptive mother dies from cancer, which ultimately put a huge strain on his home life. This all happened after his adoptive father remarries. David then attends Christopher Columbus High School, graduating in 1971. He then joined the United States Army when he was just 17 years old, serving at Fort Knox, then with the Infantry Division in South Korea afterwards. In June 1974, he was honorably discharged. David then locates his birth mother, Elizabeth Betty Broder, later that same month. And that's where he's told the details of his birth. The information upset him deeply, having to come to terms that none of the father figures in his life wanted anything to do with him. It was later revealed that this was the primary reason for his behavior afterwards. David attended college for a brief period, between 1975 and 1976, then worked as a cab driver for a while, finally working as a sorter, at the United States Postal Service. David's crime spree lasted a little more than a year, between 1975 and 1977, using New York and its surrounding areas as his playground. His MO was targeting young attractive women, with dark hair, mostly. Most of his attacks was against young girls, hanging out with their boyfriends in their cars. According to David, his first attack occurred during December 1975, Christmas Eve to be exact, by stabbing 2 young women in Co-op City. His first victim was never identified, but his second victim, a 15-year-old Michelle Foreman, was stabbed 6 times. She survived. Shortly after the attack, he moved to Yonkers. He was never a suspect for that attack. On the morning of the 29th of July 1976, around 1:10, in the Pelham Bay area, 18-year-old Donna Loria and 19-year-old Jody Valenti were chilling out in Jody's car. When Loria was about to leave, she noticed a man near their car. Surprised to see a man standing there, she angrily shouts out, "Now what is this?" That's when the unknown assailant stops dead in his tracks, pulls out his gun from a brown paper bag, points his pistol at her, holding it with both hands, and pulls the trigger. Gloria was struck, killing her instantly. Then he turned the gun to Jody, shooting her in the thigh. He shoots for the third time, but the bullet doesn't hit her. The unknown man then turns around and walks away. Jody survives the attack. She gives police a description of the shooter, claiming he was a white male, probably in his 30s, approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall. The community gave the police a similar description of an unknown man they witnessed driving a yellow compact car, hours before the shootings. On the 23rd of October 1976, 20-year-old Carl Denaro and 18-year-old Rosemary Keenan were hanging out in Rosemary's car, when out of the blue, the car's windows shatters, with glass flying everywhere. Without even thinking, Rosemary starts up and drives away. They had no idea that someone was even shooting at them. But it wasn't long till Carl noticed that he'd been shot in the head. They were fortunate to survive the attack. He eventually had to have a metal plate inserted in head to cover the hole. Rosemary was lucky, only sustained slight injury from the shattered glass. Even though the shooting were similar to the previous couple attacks, at that time, the police did not make the connection due to the bullet recovered from Carl, could not be identified as a .44 slug. Around midnight, on the 27th of November 1976, 16-year-old Donna DeMasi and 18-year-old Joanne Lamino were chatting outside Joanne's home, after spending some time at the movies, when an unknown man walked towards them asking them for directions. Without any warning, he suddenly pulls out his gun and shoots each of them once, before making his getaway. A neighbor heard the shots, and ran out to assist and noticed the unknown man run away. Donna was shot in the neck, but she survived and Joanne was hit in the back. Her injuries was more serious. She was rendered paraplegic. On the 30th of January 1977, around 12:40 a.m., 26-year-old Christine Freund, with her fiancé, 30-year-old John Deal, were out, sitting in John's car, near the Woods Forest in Queens. When suddenly, gunshots rang out, hitting their car. John starts up and makes his getaway. He was slightly injured in the attack, but unfortunately Christine was shot. She later died in the hospital. The attacker could not be identified. It was the first time that similarities were formed due to the shooter using a .44 caliber gun on both occasions. Also, that the attacker was targeting young attractive women, with long dark hair. Then on the 8th of March 1977, at around 7:30 p.m., 19-year-old Virginia Voskerichian was on her way home from school, when she was shot in the head. In her attempt to protect herself from her attacker, she held up her textbook, to shield herself from the bullet. Sadly, she dies from her injuries. On the 17th of April 1977, at around 3 a.m., 20-year-old Alexander Esau, and 18-year-old Valentina Siriani, was hanging out in Alexander's brother's car, near the Bronx. Suddenly, 4 shots rang out. When the police arrived, they found that Alexander shot once, and Valentina was shot twice, in the head. Sadly, both of them died. It was concluded that the same .44 caliber weapon was used in these shootings. Also, this time, the attacker leaves a note at the scene, addressed to Captain Joseph Borelli, from NYPD. In the letter, the killer identified himself as Son of Sam. The media coined him the name as the .44 caliber killer before, but it was quickly replaced with his preferred name, of Son of Sam. In the letter, the author explained that he would continue the killings. Part of the letter states, "Bad spelling and all. I am deeply hurt by your calling me a woman hater. I am not. But I am a monster. I am the son of Sam. I am a little brat. When Father Sam gets drunk he gets mean. He beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other times he locks me in the garage. Sam loves to drink blood. Go out and kill, commands Father Sam. Behind our house some rest. Mostly young. Raped and slaughtered, their blood drained, just bones now. Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic too. I can't get out, but I look out the attic window and watch the world go by. I feel like an outsider. I am on a different wavelength than everybody else, programmed to kill. However, to stop me you must kill me. Attention all police. Shoot me first. Shoot to kill or else. Keep out of my way or you will die. Papa Sam is old now. He needs some blood to preserve his youth. He has had too many heart attacks. Too many heart attacks. Me hooted Earth's sonny boy. I miss my pretty princess most of all. She's resting in Our Lady's house, but I'll see her soon. I am the monster, Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth. I love to hunt, prowling the streets looking for fair game, tasty meat. The woman of queens are the prettiest of all. I must be the water they drink. I live for the hunt, my life. Blood for Papa. Mr. Borelli, sir. I don't want to kill any more, no sir. No more, but I must honor thy father. I want to make love to the world. I love people. I don't belong on earth. Return me to Yahoos. To the people of Queens, I love you. And I want to wish all of you a happy Easter. May God bless you in this life and in the next, and for now I say goodbye and good night. Police, let me haunt you with these words. I'll be back. I'll be back. To be interpreted as bang 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 bang. Yours in murder, Mr. Monster. Then, on the 30th of May 1977, a letter arrived, addressed to news journalist Jimmy Breslin, claiming to be from the .44 caliber killer. The letter read, "Hello from the gutters of NYC, which are filled with dog manure, vomit, stale wine, urine and blood. Hello from the sewers of NYC, which swallow up these delicacies when they are washed away by the sweeper trucks. Hello from the cracks in the sidewalks of NYC and from the ants that dwell in these cracks and feed in the dried blood of the dead that has settled into the cracks. JB, I'm just dropping you a line to let you know that I appreciate your interest in those recent and horrendous .44 killings. I also want to tell you that I read your column daily and I find it quite informative. Tell me, Jim, what will you have for July 29th? You can forget about me if you like because I don't care for publicity, however you must not forget Donna Loria and you cannot let the people forget her either. She was a very very sweet girl, but Sam's a thirsty lad and he won't let me stop killing until he gets his fill of blood. Mr. Breslin, sir, don't think that because you haven't heard from me for a while that I went to sleep. No, rather I am still here. Like a spirit roaming the night. Thirsty, hungry, seldom stopping to rest, anxious to please Sam. I love my work. Now the void has been filled. Perhaps we shall meet face to face someday, or perhaps I will be blown away by cops with smoking 38s. Whatever. If I shall be fortunate enough to meet you, I will tell you all about Sam, if you like, and I will introduce you to him. His name is Sam the Terrible. Not knowing what the future holds, I shall say farewell, and I will see you at the next job. Or should I say you will see my handiwork at the next job. Remember Ms. Loria. Thank you. In their blood and from the gutter Sam's creation. .44. Here are some names to help you along. Forward them to the inspector for use by NCIC, the Duke of Death, the Wicked King Wicker, the 22 Disciples of Hell, John Wheaties, rapist and suffocator of young girls. P.S. Please inform all the detectives working the slaying to remain. P.S. J.B. Please inform all the detectives working the case that I wish them the best of luck. Keep 'em digging. Drive on. Think positive. Get off your butts. Knock on coffins, etc. Upon my capture, I promise to buy all the guys working the case a new pair of shoes, if I can get up the money. Son of Sam. On the 26th of June 1977, At around 3 a.m., outside a local disco, 20-year-old Salvatore Lupo and 17-year-old Judy Placido were sitting in Salvatore's car when shots hits the car. Salvatore was hit on the forearm, with Judy getting hit in the shoulder, neck and temple. Lucky for the couple, they survived the attack. Even though no clear description was made of the shooter, an eyewitness saw a man running away and jumping into a car. The witness could even assist the police with a partial number plate. On the 31st of July 1977, 20-year-old Stacy Moskowitz and 20-year-old Robert Violante were hanging out in Robert's car in Bath Beach, Brooklyn. They were preoccupied with each other when a man approached and fired 4 shots through the passenger's side door before making his getaway. They both sustained gunshot wounds to the head. Robert lost his left eye in the attack, but sadly, Stacy dies from her injuries.
I'm leaving my house, and I'm walking down the steps, and my mom turns to me, and she says, "Robert, be careful." And I turned around, and the next thing I said was, I'll never forget this, "Ma, don't worry, I'm going out with a blonde tonight." The bullet totally destroyed the left eye and most of my right eye, and, full of blood. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see Stacy sitting right next to me. I heard some moaning coming from Stacy. And that's the saddest part, that I never got to really know Stacy. Yeah, that was really, really the sad part.
Cassalia Davis, a community member, had been walking her dog past the crime scene of Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Violante. In passing, she noticed a police officer ticketing a car parked near to a fire hydrant. During the same time, and after the police officer had left, she noticed an unknown man walking past her from the area the car was parked, towards the scene where Robert and Stacy was shot. Cassalia felt uneasy as the man was looking at her. She rushed back home, only to hear gunfire behind her. She said nothing for days, until she finally contacts the police. After giving her statement, the police went through their records for all parking violations for the day, and one of the cars ticketed that day was a yellow Ford Galaxy, registered to David Berkowitz. On the 9th of August 1977, NYPD detectives contacts the Yonkers Police Department to arrange an interview with David. The Yonkers police dispatcher who first took the call was Wheat Carr, the daughter of Sam Carr, who lived right behind David. According to Wheat, he once shot her father's dog. After hearing that bit of information, especially the part where she mentioned her dad's name was Sam, the police became more interested in David Berkowitz. Then on the 10th of August 1977, the police gave David a visit. They noticed his car parked outside his apartment at 35 Pine Street, Yonkers, and peeked in, to find a gun lying on his back seat. They further searched his car only to find a bag containing a map of all the crime scenes, ammunition, and with some letters addressed to the inspector of the Son of Sam Task Force. Yep, that should be enough for the police to arrest David. But instead of simply walking in to arrest David, the police decided to wait for him to leave, due to the police not having obtained a search warrant at the time, and was afraid that their search could be challenged in court. Their initial search was based on the visual evidence on the back seat of his car. So, around 10 p.m. that night, David is seen exiting his apartment, and gets into his car. Still with no search warrant, the police decided to make their move. David then states, with a smile, "Well, you got me. How come it took you such a long time?" Detective Falotico then asks David, "Now that I've got you, who have I got?" David replies in a soft tone, "You know." The detective then asks him again, "No, I don't. You tell me." David turns his head, smiles at the officer and says, "I'm Sam." The detective, wanting a full confession, asks him once again, "You're Sam?" Sam who? With David simply replying, Sam. David Berkowitz. And that was all the police needed. A full search of his apartment was underway, finding numerous things, including tons of notes of all his awesins over the years.
Shortly after he arrived at the Brooklyn courthouse, Berkowitz bit a guard badly enough to send him to the hospital as several guards stopped him from lunging toward a 7th-floor window. 90 minutes late, he made a wild entrance into the courtroom, looking straight at Mrs. Nisa Moskowitz, mother of one of his 6 murder victims, Stacy Moskowitz. To a weird, nursery rhyme-like tune, Berkowitz, who had never known Stacy Moskowitz, sang, "Stacy was a whore." Mrs. Moskowitz bolted out of her seat and screamed back, "You animal." That's right, Berkowitz replied in a whining voice. And then, Robert Violante, Stacy's date the night she died, who was also shot by Berkowitz and lost an eye, rose and shouted, "You creep." After a recess, judges from the 3 boroughs where the murders occurred took the bench one at a time. The first quoted the last psychiatric report. It seemed to predict today's events. "Do you know what will happen during sentencing?" Berkowitz is asked. Then the psychiatrist's comment, Berkowitz's mood changes once again. Now his face lights up, his eyes twinkle. "I know, but I'm not telling." To a suggestion that there be another psychiatric evaluation in view of today's turmoil, a friend of the Moskowitz family bristled, stood, and shouted, "It's not justice. What about the families? They're human." Applause rolled over the courtroom. When a second judge spoke of delaying sentencing, another of Berkowitz's victims, Donna DeMasi, who was shot in the neck, shouted to the judge, "It should happen to you what happened to me." Later, she was cynical about Berkowitz's courtroom behavior.
I felt like killing. I felt like scratching his eyes out. Because it was an act, that's why.
And Robert Violante explained his courtroom outburst.
Total anger. That's it, just total outrage, and I really couldn't control myself.
David Berkowitz receives 25 years to life behind bars.
What would you tell 23-year-old David Berkowitz today?
Turn around before it's too late, because destruction is coming. There was just a battle going on inside me.
In your head?
Well, wherever, just a battle going on. Yeah.
I guess here's the thing. He's a Christian man who knows right from wrong, who's had loving parents, right? Who's very thoughtful. Yet at some point there, you killed 2 people.
Well, things happen, but that's it,
It just kept going for more than a year.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that was not me. I hate that name. I despise that name.
Which name?
That moniker, Son of Sam. That was not. That was a demon. That was a demonic entity that I was serving. And that was just a break from reality, and thought I was doing something to appease the devil. I'm sorry for it, but I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
Appease the devil?
Well, I was, at this time, I was serving him. I was serving him. I feel that he had taken over my mind and body. I just surrendered to those very dark forces. I regret that with all my heart.
In 77 is when the newspapers, started to cover this.
Yeah.
44 caliber killer.
Whatever.
Son of Sam. You would see this stuff. It was on the newspaper, on the TV, on the radio. It was everywhere.
I don't want to discuss that.